We are officially on air. Strange
Yo,
Sociology, the second version of the on-air hangout. Bruce is here.
indeed.
He's there in lovely Oceanside. I'm here in beautiful San Bernardino. Much more beautiful than Oceanside.
No, it's not. But whatever you got to tell yourself, do what you do, bro.
And the school's name is Look the Coast.
You were the coach. You were the coach. Yes.
So, I mean, I don't think there's any other place to start other than Prince.
Yo, yeah, man. That dude. Besides being genius, besides being everything that he was, just had a radical, effect on my life. I'm telling you, I remember watching Purple Rain multiple times in the theater, watching it multiple times. Now, please don't misunderstand. I didn't pay for every single one of those times. I thought that's no case, but watching it multiple times and just the talent that man had, and that he signified a generation for me, and and the fact that he got a great, what was it, an Oscar for his soundtrack before Michael Jackson got an Oscar and stuff like that. It's like it just meant something to me when to see him and do what he did, and later on, really being a pioneer on the internet and doing music on the internet and whatnot. May his soul rest in peace. I don't know what the conditions are about how he died. I just want to just celebrate how he lived.
Yeah, and just to set the scene, I think part of, as we do this, people are fascinated just by us personally, and we try and stick to the topics, but they get to know us. Even when we first started doing Strange Fruit, I think one of the appeals of working together was we're two Black men who teach similar populations, and there was always that stereotype that we think the same or have the same thoughts and speak about certain things the same way. And it's like, well, we understand the nuances of being Black men and even educated Black men. And Prince is one of those figures that does kind of shatter that, where as a person, a fan of music, Prince shatters those differences. And it's amazing to see the internet outpour. And even the folks who I have had conversations with, the reverence by which they speak about Prince. And I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care how old they are. I don't care what music they are currently listening to in their cars or in their iPods, as if anyone actually listens to an iPod, or on their phones or whatever. Everyone has a Prince song and a Prince memory and a Prince moment and something that they appreciated about Prince. And when having these conversations, other folks are like, yeah, I understand that. For me, it was, yeah, I understand that. And that, I often think about cultural memory and who are the memory makers. Yo, this dude, his memory extends even to songs that he doesn't play. His influence is so great. Case in point, just the idea when we hear pop music, that sounds like 10-year-old R&B music. That sounds like 5-year-old rap music. That has the instrumentation of British rock. That has the drum patterns, right? All these different elements. Yo, Prince was one of the early guys who says, I'm playing funk and rock and jazz and all of these things with a rock guitar, and I'm blurring the lines.
Yeah. No, he like I said, it's like, man, it's like whenever you start listening to this dude, whether it's, and I know I'm saying all the pop stuff, and for true fans, like, it goes so much deeper. It means so much more. But like I said, Little Red Corvette to Purple Rain to Kiss to to all the Housequake and all of this stuff, man. It's like he had party anthems. He had some really deep stuff. He had some really corny stuff. He had some stuff on the B side. If anybody remembers what that even means anymore. that, you know, if you're a true fan, you get to know this character that he used to play called Camille. You know, and it's like, you know, just the depth of what he was willing to do. That no, you know, I talked about, you know, gender roles and everything in my class, and for him to put on a character, or I don't even know if it's a character, but an alternative persona for himself, of Camille, you know, a man saying that he has this feminine persona, if you would. It was, I appreciate that so much more now as a 44-year-old black male with a wife and kids and all of this stuff, versus I know the 20-year-old Bruce wouldn't have appreciated that a whole bunch at all. I'd have been clowning him and all of that. But now, you know, just to understand, it's like, you know, the complexity of this, of a human being, you know, and you know, and to trap that into, you know, into preconceived understandings of gender and whatnot, you know. And then when he came out with his you know, when he changed his name to Campbell, and really just kind of adopting that space, is like, I know I don't think he would say that he was transgender or queer or anything like that, but to me that even connects to, you know, LGBTQIA community and whatnot, just to challenge and blur those lines. And that's what he did with his music. That's what he did with his life. And he even did that with his name. And I just appreciate the artist that is Prince.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about, and this is not like one person who says this, right? We always talk about citations and citing who we're talking about. No, this was common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring your girl around Prince. He'll take her with high heels, right? Dude's got mascara, perm, high heels, and a blouse on, and he'll take your girl, right? There we go. To be so masculine, and regardless of what he was wearing, you know what I mean? Yeah. For the music to be so simultaneously sexually charged and religious, for him to be so rock and so blues, and for him to have, you know, rejected rap and yet be so inspirational to hip hop. And certainly he came around to hip hop later, but that's what humanity is about. And I think it shows, like I said, I'm seeing 23, 24-year-old people talking about, oh, Prince, and feeling, you know, such a compassion. Yeah. And of course, the folks that are my parents' age, they have a interesting relationship just watching them and the product of the times. And I'm born in 1981, so I'm seeing Purple Rain in the theaters at like 4. I got to cover my eyes with Apollonia Pure in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Word. Yeah, you know, and you know, my, you know, final ode to him is, you know, when Chappelle makes a skit about you,
man.
That what he said, because then I saw evidence that he actually was a baller, like he played basketball.
Oh, yeah. I
didn't know that, and so I literally thought that Chappelle was just messing around. You know, you know, the Eddie
Murphy's True Hollywood Stories.
Yeah, I was like, he's making this up. It's funny as hell, because I mean, Prince is like 5'3", 5'4", or something like that.
Right.
Maybe even shorter. And so to think of him as someone who could play basketball was just like, that was funny. And then with the blouse and all of that and the high heels, and I'm just like, that was hilarious to me. And then, like I said, I found out later on that he indeed was really good at basketball, and I'm like, okay, all right. That just rounds off the entire him as his being, that he really was just that. He was just that good at everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good with that. I'll be okay.
So favorite Prince song? I'm putting you on the spot here. Only one. And you don't say Purple Rain. Favorite Prince song.
But
don't say Purple Rain. We get it. That just canon. Everyone gets Purple Rain. Purple Rain and
Adore.
Ooh.
Oh, see, I caught you off guard with that one, bro. You made me think quick. It was like, Adore, Oh, man.
All right. I was trying to think of mine real quick. I got too many. I can't do it.
You gonna put me on the spot?
You do it.
Myself on the spot. One, Instinct. Say it. First one. Go.
The Beautiful Ones. It's off of Purple Rain. It's kind of cheating.
Yeah, it was a little cheating, but
All right, so other stuff, a lot of stuff happening. Bruce sent me 35
It wasn't 35.
articles to read
20.
and 35 things for me to think sociologically about. But I think this is certain one that plays close to the hip. An article in the Chicago Tribune. The heading is "White Teachers and Black Teachers Have Different Expectations for Black Students." Do you tell us about your expectation for Black students?
Man, look, see, this one really cuts home for me because, here I am, I'm Dr. Bruce Hoskins, and I have my PhD in sociology from USC, a prestigious school and all of that. And yet in school, in the K through 12 system, and look, I don't have the story of that I was a bad student in school. I was not that student. I actually did pretty well all throughout my K through 12 time. But I always got the distinct impression, looking back, I never got pushed. It was completely fine for the teachers in that space for me to just be the guy that was good at school and then also played these sports and whatnot, because I played football, basketball, and track. I didn't do it all in 1 year, but just to be good enough, staying out of trouble, and I even graduated with honors, but it was honestly, that was by accident. I just took the classes that were in front of me that the counselor recommended, but no one ever talked to me about college. As a matter of fact, I mean, I got accepted straight out of high school for USC and Whittier, but I couldn't figure out how to do the financial aid and all of that stuff, and so I wanted to go into the Navy. But I'm saying all of that to say, if teachers would have talked to me about going to college like I do now, because I tell my students now in my introduction to sociology class, whatever class I teach, I tell them, it's like, look, I'm going to talk to you like you're going to graduate school. Because even though you might not think you're going to graduate school, that's exactly what I thought when I was sitting at that chair, in your chair at MiraCosta. At MiraCosta, I was a math major that was going to teach high school. Now I have my PhD in sociology. You know what I'm saying? And so the way that I think about my expectations for my students, like I said, I really want to make sure, it's like in my life, I feel it's like my mission to make sure that students like me don't go unnoticed. And even students not like me, students who aren't doing well or whatever, and just picking them up and going, yo, you can do more, encouraging them to do more. My favorite student of all time, we know who they are, who I'm talking about right now. My favorite student of all time failed my introduction to sociology class. She is now about to get her master's degree in sociology. I'm not going to say that has everything to do with me. It don't, but I'm going to take some credit for that, though, because her and I have a very close mentor-mentee relationship. So therefore, I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that. You're going to take some credit for that, but
I sure am. Yeah, I'm taking my share.
When she become famous and everything, we both gonna claim her.
Oh yeah.
And it's gonna be really fun. But that's certainly something that I've been thinking about regarding that article, man. It's just that the idea of teachers' expectation and how powerful they are in your lives, and whatnot, and what you can, and what my responsibility is, especially as a community college teacher, because I chose this life. People have asked me when I first got my PhD, because I got it when I was here at MiraCosta, and they asked me, what are you going to do next? Well, after I got my PhD, like I was supposed to move on. And it's like, no, I chose this. I chose community college because it has everything that I have in mind in regards to what an education is supposed to be. And I think I can have the most effect here. And
the article talks very on about self-fulfilling prophecy, which, it catches my eye. In fact, this is exactly how I teach the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy when we're talking about deviance, which is this idea that the myth around self-fulfilling prophecy is that someone tells you, oh, you're not going to be nothing in life. And so you like internalize that just because someone said it, right? A teacher tells you that, and the student just says, oh, well, they said I'm not going to be nothing, so I'm not going to be nothing. Mm-hmm. That's not really, I just don't know that to be the case in anyone who I've had these close conversations with. It was more or less a teacher has said, oh, I'm not going to be anything in life. And so therefore, when I was turning in stuff, they didn't give me the time to correct and address me as such. They spoke to me in this type of manner. And then I in turn spoke to them. It's these slow processes.
Yeah.
It's tons and tons of micro interactions, right? Microaggressions, if you will. There's these tons of micro interactions that are supported by the structure and supported by the data. Right. And just that idea of self-fulfilling prophecy, we start thinking about it not as a someone naming it and claiming it, but rather we're thinking about it in terms of, yo, how do we break those micro interactions? Listen, we know the data, and that's one of the things about the article. We're speaking about the difference between expectations, but we all know the data. We all know, statistically speaking, who is and who is less likely to succeed. So it's not, I hope people don't read this article and think that white teachers are more guilty than black teachers. No, we're all sitting here looking at the data like it's not good. It's hopeless. But it's how do we in turn make sure that those micro interactions don't support the data. That's how we change the data. Yeah. So, and this is not to say we don't need to keep throwing resources. I shouldn't say throwing resources. That we don't keep supporting student services with resources and other types of things. But it also, in the classroom, I know I'm all the time saying, how many of y'all trying to get a PhD? Okay, that's your new goal.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. And one of the bigger points in the article was talking about how it's that I think it was that white teachers or that black teachers are 30% more likely to recommend students of color to college than white students or than white teachers. And, and it really begs a very, very real question that I know no one wants to talk about because we are we talk, when we think about civil rights, we think about the fight for integration. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely some space for people to consider the fight for segregation if it's equity minded. I'm not saying it's like I said, I'm not saying
there's tons of,
and at the same time, separating spaces out because separating these resources out, because separating populations out and whatnot. This is the foundational structure of why we have historically black colleges and universities and whatnot, to say we learn better to whatever degree. The teachers are going to teach us better in this space because they will at least have high expectations of us when we go into these spaces, and that the black and white teachers are literally arguing about the same student about, okay, that person is just like, for me, I'm like, yo, that person is college material. When I'm talking about my student, that I talked about that failed my introduction to sociology class, it was like, I thought to myself, that person, although they failed my introduction to sociology class, that person is still college material. Not only are they college material, but they have a destiny that is far greater than what the average than what they even understand. And so, so then what does it mean? And that student is not even black, by the way. She's Chicano Latina, but just my idea of what you're supposed to do in that space and what does it look like than to have black teachers teach black students and white teachers and however all of that goes and whatnot. And what does that mean, right? What does it mean? Because as we're interacting with each other, I don't know if we've gotten healthier as a nation. I don't know if our education system has gotten healthier. That's a very real question for me. I know access has increased and all of that, but students of color are by far more likely to go into the community college system than straight into a 4-year college system and whatnot. And it's like, what does that all mean when you also add in this data about teacher expectations?
Well, there's tons of data, and certainly it's not to scrutinize it, but there's tons of data that's showing that predominantly black charter schools with predominantly black faculty are graduating astronomically high rates of students. Yep. So your assertion is supported, right? I'm thinking of a couple schools in Milwaukee I remember reading about, Brooklyn. Now, there's certain issues about acceptance when you come with charter schools, and are they highly selective? Are they selecting the best? But I think when you code for such things, your point will still stand. Yeah. The question, though, is like, we have a history of what happens when we segregate, right? So, the fear of segregation is not totally unfounded. Can we have that? Can we have segregation without deflating the value of one or the other? But speaking of segregation and separation, Harriet Tubman,
What?
$20 bill. Is that exciting? Is that
I'm gonna spend. I'm gonna have nothing but
racist? Is that exciting? Is that post-racial? Is that a sign of post-racism?
No, but definitely not.
We got Obama and Harriet Tubman. Come on.
Look, please don't misunderstand. These are definitely landmark occasions, for us. However, what I was reading in the articles, that's going to take like 15 years for the new currency to get designed and put out. And so it's going to be a long time before we see Harriet Tubman actually on the bill. And look, 15 years is a long time. They might pull her name. I don't know. So I'm hopeful, but that's on the side. But I'm telling you what, when she do make it on that $20 bill, I ain't gonna have nothing but 20s in my pocket, bro. It's gonna be number 20s. I'm gonna go to the ATM, I'm gonna ring it up, and we ain't gonna have nothing. Like I said, I ain't gonna spend nothing but 20s. It's like that's just the way that's gonna go. But the thing to me, maybe I do believe we're moving in the right direction. Please don't misunderstand. However, just to say that this is the solution, it's not the solution, because when you see this, the part that I trip out about is the repercussions. Like people are making some what I would suggest are some really absurd comments in regards to why she shouldn't be on the bill. And those things are, and that's just like, whoa, who made it a rule that it was supposed to be presidents that's supposed to be on the bill? Well, one, that's not even the case because there's Benjamin Franklin, right? So that's not even true. And then second of all, it's like, who's to say we can't change this, right? Whenever people want to, and whatnot. So this doesn't even mean that she needs to be a permanent member in all of that. And so then, what does it mean when people protect, quote, history? And the context that I'm getting this in is definitely white folks being upset that their folks, that people, that their history seems to be being erased. And it's like, yo, your history is not being erased. No one's history is being erased. There's just different points in history that are being emphasized. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, welcome to the 21st century. You better catch up, because the train's not moving backwards. At least I don't think so, not anytime soon.
I guess I think your history is being erased and you're allowed to have a problem with that. That's what privilege feels like.
Definitely.
The burden of the burden of complaining that your history is being erased. If it is, I guess so. I don't have a problem with certain people's history being erased, since that's what we do in this space, right? It'd be different if we decided like, oh, we don't erase histories. Then I'd be like, hey, we don't want to erase yours either. We don't want to erase certain things either. However, history is on the side of erasing history, and that has been done. You, and by you, I mean academic institutions, I mean textbook institutions, I mean school boards. You have actively held conversations in terms of what should and should not be taught in ways that are just overtly political, and in ways that support the white supremacist, patriarchal, sexist structures.
Right.
So under no certain terms do I feel any kind of way about the erasing of histories. That being said, you know how little cash I carry. I just don't know. I can't even say this is a symbolic anything.
Yeah.
Because of the frequency of which I hold cash. I am concerned about what this does in terms of pop culture. I am concerned. I am curious about how this affects, entertainment and capitalism as it relates to the way by which we express our disregard for money.
Yeah.
curious about certain professions. And listen, I know it's not even a joke. I mean, this is a serious question I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If someone throw a 20 in the club, do you I as a black male, I'm like, oh, see, I'm ready to go home now. Look at me, I'm over here in the club drinking. I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna go home and read some books. I need to be much stronger. I mean, and maybe if you don't know much about Harriet Tubman other than she was a black woman who freed slaves, maybe it's not that deep. Maybe, but I think there's a sizable portion, no matter where we are in the education or class or whatever, that have really at some point read about, thought deeply about Harriet Tubman and said, man, if I could be that strong, if I could be that brave, if I could be that bold, if I could be that powerful, and if I could come from such a place of hatred and rise above, how can I spend that 20 on some Hennessy? I don't know. It's crazy.
Look, there's some very real things to consider about how you gonna see that bill and how you gonna spend it.
Right.
Like I said, I'm really just perplexed, like I said, about the arguments for and against, and it's like, honestly, I'm not even about like trying to even judge like his presidency. You know what I'm saying? It's like he was horrible to Native Americans, owned black slaves. It's like, who back then who didn't? I'm not even compelled by that. I'm just like, yo, I'm compelled by the idea that we can focus on different spaces in history and really give a fullness to it that has been sorely lacking in the past.
Yeah.
And the present.
Yeah. Who would have thought Martin Luther King wouldn't have been the first black person on the bill?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's deep.
That's deep. Well, speaking about Martin Luther King versus Harriet Tubman on money, we got men. Well, that was a terrible transition. That transition doesn't really follow. I tried. I tried to work it out.
MLK. You would have been fine going from Harriet Tubman.
Yeah. Just going with gender and then money.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out. But
messed it up. And it's okay. I still love you.
I tried. Washington Post is looking at companies in Silicon Valley in particular, like Microsoft and Facebook, who tout equal gender pay. This is their headline, but have a more glaring problem. That's not the headline. I just made it up. So while Microsoft, the gender pay gap is for every man's dollar, a woman is 99.8 cents, 99.8 cents, which is remarkable. Yeah. I would say it's good, but it's not equal. So our students always say,
what's up with that point two? What's up with point two? I don't get it. What's up with the point two?
I was sitting in class. I was like, oh, it's not 77. They're like, no, it's like 78, 79. They're like, so it's getting better. I'm like, it's not equal. So what you want me to do? Apologize? But the issue is leadership. So when you code for, when the variable is leadership, we find it's huge inequality in terms of who's at the top. And of course that too is expressed in the gap. So,
and that tripped me out because I see there's moments of pure hope, right? And so I see this and I'm like, yo, hey, there's some companies out there that are putting in some work, talking about, closing the wage gap. It's still not equal, and yet at the same time, and given the numbers that they have, that still is probably statistically significant. Maybe it's not, but just that's in my stats brain talking about that. But the fact that there's still the leadership gap, that's huge. And that, as a matter of fact, later on in that article, they talked about how if you take the top 10 men in like the tech industry or something like that, that their wages, range between like 90,000 to like 130,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, for women, the top 10 women, their salary ranges from like 40,000, like 50,000 or something like that to 90. And so it's like there's obviously some huge gap in regards to leadership. But the other part that it upset me. It made me mad when I saw that there was another article. This was actually another article where they talked about how women that younger women today, they actually have a better opportunity of getting equal pay, because they were talking about how women, they didn't negotiate well, that they didn't negotiate for salaries as well as men did. And so now these women today are getting better negotiating skills. They're not settling for less. They know their value and all of this stuff. And they made it seem like, and see, now that sounds like it's the answer, but it's not, because it's like, yo, are you trying to tell me that I get in the private sector that, it's like you only want to give somebody what they're, quote, what they're worth to you. But to say that women were the problem in regards to why, like, that it was something lacking on their side in regards to why the wage gap exists, that completely, I don't buy that for a second. That is actually a skill set that women don't have in regards to creating equality. In my mind, it's like it's the responsibility of the employer to make sure that they pay people and see people equally for whatever work it is that they're doing, not the person on the other end who doesn't know what other people are supposed to get or are getting paid for that particular position. Because guess what? You're not supposed to talk about stuff like that. Your people are not supposed to talk about their pay and whatnot. So how do you know what to ask for? How do you know what to negotiate for? To me, that, like I said, to blame women's lack of negotiation skills for their lack of ability to get higher wages and whatnot, I just thought that was a hard pill for me. That was a hard thing for me to wrap my mind around, because, like I said, the way that I view the inequalities is like, it shouldn't be the oppressed's fault to fight for equality, if you would. That's my paradigm of thinking, and whatnot. That if there are inequalities, then the system, the people in positions of power need to compensate for that, and that is not necessarily the oppressed faults. I mean, literally, you're blaming the victim, and I'll never be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm interested in the tech sector in particular, just because it's a reflection of how we have these very segregated economic markets overall. I mean, the tech sector is very male dominated, and it's an environment that I love watching movies and reading stories about these like frat boy like environments. Where folks are creating amazing stuff, right? And it's certainly not to minimize the accomplishments, but it's a very hostile environment for women.
Yeah.
And then we have other economic markets that women rise to the top that are catered to serving women, right? And advertising and marketing to women. I think and men do well in those markets, right? That's the glass escalator.
Absolutely.
So I'm very interested in what it means for the tech sector, and like you say, there's room, there's hope in that, and just the mere fact that Microsoft and Facebook are such large companies, such important names in terms of our economy and our culture and our psyche, that if they're at least recognizing this and addressing this as not just what's the bottom dollar line, that it's also about the leadership and the positions that are required, I wonder how they'll address certain just cultural elements. So
yeah, absolutely.
Another article that comes from the same place, Washington Post: to be poor is to die young. Is that a surprise? I mean, I guess maybe that's the jaded sociologist. And I'm young, and I'm barely a sociologist. We must understand this, right? My PhD's in cultural studies. I write poetry. I don't know.
Look, folks, I agree. Ant is barely a sociologist. He has his master's in sociology.
Right. Like, I know how to do this stuff, and I'm always like, I'd rather write a poem. It's just me. Oh, I would love to. Wow, let's play with GSS data or write poetry. I like poetry. So, but even still, I'm always surprised, right? I'm not even a old jaded sociologist, but we're still like newspapers are still publishing articles looking at data, And the only thing that changes the way that the pictures look on the map. We use different colors, or now they're interactive, but we've been talking about the correlation between poverty and health
for a long time.
When was that research first coming out? Black sociology in the 1960s?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, there's something that bothers me about this article is that they refused. I don't know if they refused or whether they weren't conscious enough to, or whatever. I don't know what it was, but they didn't talk about race at all. And that's I get living poor means dying young, but there's another layer to it, because it to me it also fits into why we talk about Black Lives Matter, why it's named Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, or no, forget All Lives Matter. That why we say Black Lives Matter versus Poor Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because as I mentioned in other spaces before, it's like, look, poor people are definitely targeted by police officers also, and that if you got away, if you eliminated Black and brown populations from prisons and just left it to whoever's left, which would be namely poor white people, we would still be the most over-incarcerated nation on the planet. I get that. And so then when you talk about poverty in general, seems something and almost like the justice system, it seems like a problem that we can't fix. But if you focus on the little stuff, if you focus on a smaller population to try to help that space, I think that it definitely, it helps everyone else in regards to their argument. And all of that to say that I know the data also talks about how not only is it poor neighborhoods, but poor neighborhoods with a higher concentration of people of color that have lower life expectancy and more pollution in their areas, and whatnot. And I haven't looked at the data. But I did look at like Flint, Michigan, and it's like, and they have a higher than like 13%, which is like the national average on African Americans, higher than that in that space. And if anybody wants a reference out there, it's pretty old school, but like I said, I know the data hasn't changed in regards to just saying that, like I said, incineraries are like things that add pollutants to an area are more likely to be in not only poor neighborhoods, but poor neighborhoods of color. And so that's what, so when we're looking at this, I strongly believe we continue to miss the mark in regards to just trying to say poor or.
But there's a flip side to this, right? Which is those are where jobs are for unskilled labor. And the research that I've been interested in as it relates to health and mortality rates and poverty has been stress, right? And the stress of being poor and the stress of being a poor person of color kills you. It absolutely kills you. And so, I'm in a city where we're actually going through that right now. Amazon wants to expand here. A lot of logistics company. When that means more trucks means more smog, right? And all these problems. And I get that. But what's going to kill you? The smog and the pollution, or the stress of not having stable employment, of being underemployed?
Understood. Yeah.
And there's no easy answer for that. The last thing I want to say is pick a side right now. Of course, we want good jobs, better jobs, jobs that benefit people as well as the environment, sustainable jobs. But see, the way America's economic system is set up, there's they're saving the world and saving the lives, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's tough. But I certainly agree with you. The fact that race was not emphasized in that article, not good. Not good.
That's just bad. Well, I would say it's bad research, but it's not research because it's a newspaper article. You know what I'm saying? And
I'm certainly, and maybe I need to go back and read the article and find the data set. Right? They probably talked about it
They didn't talk about well.
No, in the data. If I didn't go to the original.
I think the data definitely says something about it, but if I recall correctly, but
Okay.
like I said, but the article, the people who are writing the article, they choose to focus on what they want to focus on, and I get it. Like I said, it's like I understand that and trying to make this universal appeal. But from everything that I know about universalist approaches,
Oh, I just read it. No. Okay, what do you think about this, Bruce?
what's that?
Life expectancies are adjusted for race and ethnicity. They coded for race and ethnicity.
Say that again.
They coded for race and ethnicity to find that living poor means dying young. I want that money. I could have did that research. I mean, when you code for race and ethnicity, you're still surprised that poverty is a factor?
Oh, now I see what you're saying. Okay.
I'm even less surprised.
Yeah.
It should be the other way. I should be more surprised, right? No, I'm less surprised.
Yeah. Well, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. See, listen, if you're watching this, I think we have one viewer. Yeah, if you watch this, we are sociologists. We do think about things like variables and how knowledge is created. We are concerned with method. It's just we're not going to spend our time arguing those things. All right. I'm not keeping time.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping time.
You know, we're way over.
All right.
Whatever time we thought we was gonna do, we're way over that.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
Then we're done, bro.
All right. Well, next time, hopefully we can make this weekly. Semester's winding down, so we'll see how grading goes.
No doubt.